Now, let's begin.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a random review for a series that I just found out about. Now, it's on Netflix. It's called The Tourist. Now, it's already, all 6 episodes are already available for anybody interested in this. But for myself, I'm old school. I kind of like to watch each episode one day at a time. I will probably watch episode 2 tomorrow and review it. So each episode that after I watch it, I'm going to review it and talk about it. So there'll be some spoilers in here. But the reason I'm going to talk about this show and spoil it for you, tell you the story, is because this is so far, just one episode. I think it's 60 minutes, I think. Very well done. It got my interest. So, and I always would like to, like I said before, report and share any good movies or shows that come across Netflix or whatever to share with you. All right. So and again, this is spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled of the show, I go ahead and dip out and just go ahead and watch it yourself, and you can see what I'm talking about. So basically, the start of this show, or this episode 1 of the Tourist, this guy's in his car, and I think it's in Australia, and he's just driving on this dirt road, middle of nowhere. He stops at a gas station. He walks in, and all this has the reason I'm telling you mostly in detail. I'll explain this, okay? It makes sense. I promise. So basically, he walks in this gas station. He asks the guy over the counter, "Can I use your bathroom?" He's like, "Well, yeah, but you have to sign for it." He's like, "Sign for it? I have to buy it?" He's like, "No, not really. You know, it's people have to get the key and they don't bring it back. I just want to make sure I know their name to who took the key." So he signs his name. You don't see. He just signs his name. Took the key. Goes outside into the bathroom. He walks in the bathroom, and he walks back out. You don't see him do much in the bathroom, right? Just he walks in. He looks around the bathroom, and a couple moments later, he walks out. He gets in his car and goes down the road. Now, going down the road, he was singing to some kind of song out loud, just enjoying himself, I guess, right? So when he's enjoying himself, he was looking in the rear mirror, and he sees this 18-wheeler come out of nowhere, honking his horn, tailgating him, right? At that point, I was thinking, this reminds me of the Steven Spielberg movie Duel, just for a brief moment. Well, sure enough, the spoiler, of course, he tries to get away from this guy. He goes on dirt roads and all this stuff, and the truck follows. It's a really good shot. You can drones, and it's well done. Everything and the whole cinematography of that's really well done. It caught my interest, like I said, just like that. Well, at one point, he got away from the guy, the truck driver, and he's just driving around like, oh, sweet. He was rejoicing, like, I got rid of him. And all of a sudden, he just keep on driving, and all of a sudden, and while in the car, you can tell he got hit by something. And after the shot after that camera angle, he went on a long lens. You can see the truck hitting the car, right? Well, and that's when the title comes, The Tourist. Well, the guy wakes up in the hospital. He has no memory. He has no memory at all. So walks in a young cop, a lady copper. I guess you call her cop. Don't know if she's new to it or she's new to investigation, like a small town. And she was asking questions. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't remember nothing. Don't know how I got here. All I know, they told me I got in a car wreck. And she was asking questions because she's investigating that crash, right? And trying to get anything from him to help. And he said, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about it. And she said, well, I'm going to try to see if there's anybody else can go back to that crash site and see if there's anything we might, can pick up that might help your memory, right? I got the notes here, so that's the reason I'm looking at it. So it's just so good. Just bear with me here. All right. So while she was talking to him, saying that she have somebody go back to the crash site, a nurse comes in and gives him a little bit of, I guess, that stuff was on him when he came to the hospital. When he receives it, she was still there. He was going through the bag, and he found like a note that says, location, time, and table 5. And he shows it to her. And he's like, you know where this at? He's like, yeah, it's just down, so many knots down. She said, but yeah, that's where that's at. And he's like, okay, thank you. He's like, he said 25th. She said, could be tomorrow, could be next week, or next month. It depends on that. But tomorrow's 25th. And that particular day is 24th. So he's trying to figure out, okay, what's going on, right? So after that, so that night, he frustrated. He had to try to walk outside to just get fresh air, and went back inside the hotel in the hospital, and he forgot what floor he was on. So he's getting frustrated. Eventually, he found out how to get back. The next day, he was just fed up and said, you know, I need to get out of here. So the female cop was there, and she said, where are you going? He's like, I just gotta get out of here. She's like, I just need to find where I'm need to go. And she said, well, here's some money. She gave him some money to go. All right, let me make sure. Oh yeah, I forgot this part. So before he left, when he found out about the note of the location where it needs to be with, you know, the location of being booth 5 and all that, the camera changes for a second and goes to this guy in a box, and he's struggling. He's like he's you know, enclosed into a box, and he has a ladder, and he's trying to see what's going on, and he's like, get me out of here, get me here. And the camera pans up, so he's buried alive, not really deep, but you can tell he's still underneath the ground, right? He's trying to get out, and that's the point. The camera goes back to the guy at the hospital. All right, I forgot about that one. I'm glad I wrote this down. So after the guy, I got the money from the female cop to at least go out and see what he's doing. So he took a bus to the location where that was wanting to go. So it was a small little restaurant, a little hole in the wall kind of restaurant. He walks in, asks one of the waitresses there, where can I sit in booth 5? She said, yeah, of course. And he sits down. So she's like, you had a rough day? He said, you wouldn't believe me, I tell you. Basically, she was interested. She tells him. Now, there's another waitress there, and this one we'll explain it a little bit later in this review and spoilers. She's like, what's the deal with him? She said, well, he's lost his memory because of, you know, a car wreck and all that. She said, really? And she just was very interested about it. So she just keeps on staring at him. And the other waitress is like, quit staring, you're going to freak him out. Go ahead and give him his drink. She goes and gives him the drink. Now, I just think this is very odd what happens next. She was just talking to me. You really don't remember nothing. I mean, just really, she sits down in the booth with him and everything. It was just very, it just took me like, well, why is she acting this way? You'll find out in a little bit. Just bear with me here. So eventually he snaps back. I was like, I don't remember. I'm getting really frustrated here. I'm sorry, but I'm not in the mood. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to apply or anything. He said, well, it's okay. I didn't use the bathroom. She's like, oh, our bathrooms are under construction. It's backed up. We usually go to the bathroom across the street. And I'll show you. He said, okay. So she gets up with him and walks him halfway across the road. And there's an explosion exactly where he was in booth 5. So they both kind of like, what the frick's going on, right? So after that, and during this time, you kind of go through the female cop, what she's going through. She's going through some weight loss and all that kind of stuff with her, talking to her husband and all that kind of thing. Just a little backstory, just a smidge on her, right? Well, while other police officers was investigating the bomb, the waitress decides to take him to like an Airbnb kind of place and like a small little hotel kind of thing. And let me make sure. Yeah, she takes him to that place, and it's just like a older lady and her husband. Her husband can't hear very well. And she, you know, welcomes him in and tells him where to go, and you know, she's like, I can tell you had a rough day, and she hugged him, and he started, you know, breaking down a little bit because he was just emotional because he don't remember who he is and why he's here and all that kind of stuff, right? It's very, very interesting. Just let me get through this. I'll explain why I like this. All right, so next thing. All right, so while that's happening, they cut a scene back to the hospital. There is a guy walking around with a bouquet of flowers and asking, I'm looking for the guy that had an accident yesterday in a car accident. I was looking for him. And the nurse is like, he's not here. He got to check himself out. Can I help you? She's like, I was just looking for him. Do you know where he went? She said, I'm sorry, sir. May I have your name and number? We'll get back to you. He said, no, thank you. And he walks out. Long story short, he gets out, he puts on his hat, and he starts whistling. Like he always, it's the same whistle as the truck that hit him beginning of the movie, or show, or whatever you might call it. It's a movie to me. Okay, so he just gets in his car and he leaves. All right, so while that was going on, one of the fellow police officers called the female cop, and said, we found a disposable camera where the crash site. She said, well, go ahead and just go ahead and get the pictures off that and send it to me. So they did. So she calls the guy and said, hey, we found a camera, and I'm going to, where can I forward this? We scanned it, and I'm going to forward these pictures to your email address. And he's like, I don't have an email address. But the lady he's staying with had email address, so they sent to her email account. While he's opening up and see the location where it was, it didn't ring a bell. But the lady behind him was like, I know where that's at. Well, how far is it? She said, it's this certain place. He's like, well, okay, all right. She said, we can take you to it tomorrow. He's like, okay, cool. So they go, right? Well, let's see here. Yeah. So they went to that place. It's kind of like a stone place. It had these stones with like men on it or something. Like it was just stones everywhere. Like it was carved many times over, I guess, many years ago. It was kind of like a park or something. So he's walking around. He don't see anything. The lady he's staying with said, does anything ring a bell? Does anything look familiar? He said, no. So he walks to the house or to the car, and he looks over and he sees like the visitor center. He goes in there, looks around. It says a sign says, you're being watched by camera 2-3 times. He sees that sign. Goes to the guy on the counter and he said, I need to see your camera footage. He's like, who are you? Why do you want to see that? The lady comes up and says, man, this guy had a bad accident. He can't remember where he was. He's been here. Can we see your camera? He's like, oh, yeah, cool. He's like, how crazy is that? He was just being very amazed that the guy can't remember. He has got amnesia kind of thing. Well, to look at the footage, you can see him buying a couple things. He bought a koala bear stuffed bear in the gift shop. He walks up to the counter and he starts talking, but you can't hear him because it's just a video, no audio. Well, the husband who can't hear can read lips. He said, I can read the lips. Read the lips, the guys asked. He said, where is the nearest gas station? And I guess the person behind the counter told him, he's like, oh, so-and-so's place. It's like, oh yeah, how far is that? He's like, oh, it's down the road. So they went down that road to where the gas station was, where it was in the beginning, right? All right, hang on 1 second here. Let me make sure all right, cool. So they went to the gas station, pulls up, guy walks in, and the guy behind the counter like, oh, you're a comedian. The guy's like, what? Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, yeah, you're just a comedian. He's like, I'm just trying to, how do you say? I can't remember what he said, but what you said, like, you was here earlier. Like, I was? He's like, you don't, and he's like, I'm sorry, I have a bad memory. And he said, what did I do? He's like, you went to the bathroom. And he said, I did. He's like, yeah, you signed your name and everything. I was like, I have signed my name to use the bathroom? I'm not, the same thing he said at the beginning of the episode. And the guy said, yeah, you're a comedian. Here, I'll show you. Can I see what I wrote? He said, yeah. And what he wrote was Crocodile Dundee, being cheesy because he's in Australia and he's British, I think. I think he was British. But anywho, so the guy gets his keys and he goes back and goes to the bathroom. All right. When he goes to the bathroom, he does the same thing. He looks around like he did before. Well, to the right, there's a door out. There's a one way in, another way out. He opens that door to see if there's anything out there that might ring a bell. And he turns to go back in, and he saw like a dumpster here and something in the middle of the dumpster. And the guy's hand in there pulls out, and it was the koala bear that he got from the gift shop that he didn't know about till he saw the footage, right? So he just was looking at it. It was kind of weird. While that's happening, let's see. While that's happening, the camera goes back to where the black waitress was that helped him, basically save his life and not get blown up. She's chilling at her house, looking on her phone, and on her phone you can see pictures of her and him together. And she starts deleting the footage, or deleting the pictures. So apparently she knows him. Don't know how. The plot thickens, that they say, right? Well, the camera goes, or the scene goes back to him getting out of the bathroom with a koala in his hand. As he's walking, phone rings. He looks, he opens up, it's a phone, go there, says hello. Phone pans back to the guy in the freaking box that's buried. He starts cussing like, oh my God, freaking God, I can't believe this my answer. I need help, help me. And the guy's like, who is this? The camera stops, or ends. Scene ends. Episode ends. All that to say, it's a lot to digest. Now, the reason I went pretty fast, because I don't want to bore you to tears. But it might not sound, I hope it sounds interested, me telling the story, but it probably don't. But if you are curious about it, please watch this show. It's called Tourist on Netflix. Like I said, it's all 6 episodes are there if you want to watch. It's cool. But I'm going to watch each one and talk about it and spoil it and all that. But the reason I like it, to get to that point after I spoiled it for you, it's shot very well. It does not insult your intelligence. It keeps you dialed in with the characters, with the shots, and you're going along with him. You're in what he sees and what he hears. Oh yeah, speaking of that, there's one point where when he was at that B&B, he had a dream of, he sees a female in his dream. He wakes up, he just sees that glimpse of that female. It wasn't the girl, the waitress, but it was another female in a windowsill. Don't know what that was, but he just caught a glimpse of it. But what I like about it was, it's just everything about it. I'm always about quality of shots, quality of the storytelling, and that's all I always talk about. It's just good. It's good, and of course the music in the background makes you curious, and you're trying to connect the dots. And why is this happening? Well done. Now, I'm hoping it keeps on going like that. I hope it's not like a moment where it just kind of falls flat or jumps the shark kind of thing. But so far, so good. I am locked in and looking forward to watching episode 2 tomorrow. And even though if it's good or bad, I'll still spoil it and review it for you and give my take on it. But so far, this is why I love shows. That's just, it keeps you interested, that they don't woke it up. They just tell a story. You know what I'm saying? You trying to figure out what's going on, and a lot of twists and turns and all that kind of stuff. That's what I like about it. But anywho, I'll go on that. But yeah, thank you for staying this long if you did, and I guess I'll catch y'all later.